Chapter 1. Hartwood had always been a strange town. Old houses, black trees, fog that never truly disappeared. No one lived here happily. They simply existed, quietly, as if the town was hiding something. But on one cold December night, the darkness decided not to hide anymore. December 12th, 12:12 a.m. Frost clawed at the windows. The streets were empty, like abandoned hospital corridors on Mysticwell Street, house number 12. No lights had shone there for years. People called it cursed. No one entered, not even the kids who dared to summon spirits. That night, Laine turned 18. She'd lived alone for years. Her mother, long dead. Her father, a mystery. And then, she found it. A gift box. Inside, a red stone. Strange, no one had visited her home for years, but the stone glowed, even in darkness, that day. Passed in silence, the kind that feels like holding your breath. From the moment she woke up, a cold had settled in her chest, not from the weather, from something ancient. 12 Mysticwell Street, midnight. The walls creaked, the house exhaled. Then it imploded, collapsed into itself. A terrible roar shook the ground. Something massive, inhuman, burst from deep beneath the earth. Concrete, wood, roof, all vanished, swallowed by a howling, gaping abyss. And then the screams, not human, not animal, scream that shattered eardrums. John Kaufman, an old man, was the first to see it. He was walking his dog when the earth cracked beneath him. From the rift, something emerged, black, faceless, fast, like a gust of wind. John had no time to scream. Darkness pulled him in. His dog whined, then vanished into the void. Every night since, at exactly midnight, the rift opened, and from it came shadows, fast, draining, unstoppable. Each night, one soul vanished, and 12 minutes later, silence, but the air reeked of rot and ash. The town panicked. People tried to flee, but the next day, a black dome rose over Hartwood, unbreakable, unclimbable, underground, sky-high. Hell had sealed the town. Laine stood by her window, watching the blackness. 2 days had passed, 24 people, dead. Some disappeared. Others screamed until they couldn't. No one knew how it worked. Each hour became torture, especially when midnight drew near. And then came the rules. Do not go outside after 11:30 p.m. Stay in safe zones. Do not call the dead by name. Do not look into the shadows. On the third day, the mayor went mad. His final words, "We're nothing but meat to them." Something inside Laine was changing. Not strength, but fear. She didn't know why, but she felt a pull toward the rift. A voice whispering to her soul. The nightmares began. Each one ended the same. She stood at the edge of the abyss, and the voice whispered, "My blood, my flesh, my freedom, my vessel." One night, the lights went out. She saw it. A demon shadow approached her, but it didn't touch her. It leaned in, sniffed, moaned, low and satisfied, then vanished. Wayne, a boy from her old school, saw it all. He grabbed her, pulled her inside. "Did you see that? Why didn't it take you?" Laine just shook her head. Inside, silence. In her ears, ringing, and a whisper, "Not yet." That night, they didn't sleep. Laine sat by the bed, staring at the pendant. The red stone pulsed as if it had a heartbeat. Then, at exactly 12:12 a.m., the stone cracked. A black cloud burst from it and whispered, "Daughter!" Laine screamed. The house shook. That was the beginning of her story. A story where she was not the victim, nor the hero. She was the key, the seal. Chapter 2. 12 minutes to hell every night. Exactly at 12 a.m., the rift opened. Not just a crack in the ground, not a collapsed foundation, a maw leading straight into the abyss. It seemed to breathe, and with every breath, it exhaled darkness. Shadows burst out of it with a horrifying screech, like the crunch of breaking bones. There were always 12 of them. They flew like ghostly comets, ripping through the air, unerringly finding their victims. They never struck immediately. It was as if they were watching, studying, choosing. When the 12 minutes were up, they vanished back into the rift, taking one person with them. Panic gripped Hartwood. People barricaded themselves in their homes, prayed, even tried to kill themselves before midnight, hoping to avoid the grasp of the shadows. But the town wouldn't let anyone go. Neither death nor prayer could save them. The military, sent in from a neighboring district, couldn't break through the dome. It repelled machinery, missiles, and men alike. One soldier attempted to pass through. He evaporated into thin air, vanished without a trace. Only blood remained, staining the grass. The authorities were silent. Signals couldn't get past the town's borders. It felt as if the rest of the world had disappeared. Laine barely slept. With each passing day, she grew quieter, more distant. Her mind tried to protect her, but dreams crawled into her head like cockroaches in a rotting house. In her dreams, she stood at the edge of the rift, and beside her, him, a tall, dark silhouette with burning eyes. Lava poured from his mouth, and his tongue resembled a molten chain. He looked at her like she was his creation. "You are mine," he said. "My breath, my hope, my way out." She woke in a cold sweat, scratches on her neck, as if something had tried to coil around her throat in her sleep. He came to her again, not as a savior this time, but as someone just as afraid. "Laine," Wayne said, I saw everything that night. The demon was right next to you, almost touched you, but he left, just walked away." He fell silent, afraid to say the next words. Why? Why is he interested in you? Laine didn't know, or didn't want to know. Wayne took her hand. The touch felt human, in a world that was becoming less and less so. "You're not alone," he said. "We have to do something. Together." They joined a group of survivors gathered in Hartwood's old library. Behind locked doors, those who hadn't yet gone mad huddled together. 12 people. In dusty old books, they found fragments of ancient legends. There was talk of a seal of shadows, a daughter of the Burning One, and repeated references to the number 12. "This all sounds like bullshit," said one of the survivors, a nervous guy named Garrett. "But the number 12 really is everywhere. 12 demons, 12 minutes, December 12th, house number 12, and us, we're 12 too." Laine said nothing. Something inside her twisted tightly. One of the women, an elderly librarian named Missy, pulled out a map of the old city. There was a mark on it, the Circle of Fire, an ancient seal no one had ever paid attention to. It was located beneath house number 12. "This isn't just a rift," she whispered. "It's a prison. Someone meant to keep him from getting out, and now we've broken everything." Night. At 11:59 p.m., the group locked themselves in the library. They covered the windows with black curtains and stood in a circle. Some held knives, some held crosses, some muttered prayers. Laine sat in the corner, clutching her pendant. The clock struck midnight. At first, silence. Then, a hiss, like claws tearing through the air. Then, a roar, like a jet engine taking off. And then, they came. The shadows tore through the walls as if through paper. They ignored weapons, prayers, crosses. Their bodies were like smoke, but with claws and eyes. Horrible, joyless, hungry eyes. One of the men, An older one named Sebastian was seized by a shadow and lifted into the air. He screamed. The shadow entered him through his mouth, his eyes, his pores, and he began to burn from within like a candle. 12 minutes later, the demons vanished. They left behind 11 people and a smoldering corpse. That night, for the first time, Laine saw a mark appear on her hand, right beneath the skin. A circle crossed out with chains, like a burn. She didn't scream. She just clutched her pendant and exhaled. "He's calling me." And no one answered, because they all felt the same. Nothing could save them anymore. If you want to know more, subscribe to the channel, and I'll tell you the whole story.
Chapter 3. The shadows don't come for you. The third night brought not hope, but understanding. There was no way out. Bridges, roads, railway tracks, everything that led out of Hartwood was swallowed by an ashen haze. People who tried to escape disappeared. If they were found at all, they were dried out, as if burned from the inside. The town had become a cage, and the rift, its center, like a heart beating black blood. Laine couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about why the shadows slowed down when they passed her. It wasn't as if they didn't notice. On the contrary, they watched. They paused. They reached out, but they never touched. "They avoid you," Wayne said, approaching her at sunset. "They don't avoid me," Laine whispered. "They guard me." "What? Don't let me reach the edge, Wayne. Promise me you won't let me." He didn't understand, but he nodded. Laine didn't explain. Not yet. The library had become a temporary shelter. 11 people remained. Outside, people kept dying without reason, without pattern. Today, it was a child. Yesterday, a police officer. Tomorrow, someone else. With every death, the demon in the rift grew stronger. Laine could feel it like a fever between her shoulder blades, like something moving inside her. 0, 0, 0, 0. The shadows arrived as always, without warning. From beneath the floor, from the walls, from the corners, black sludge that twisted into broken forms. Eyeless, with torn mouths, they hunted without emotion, without sound. Nora died first. One of the shadows passed through her, and she ignited like a torch. Her ashes scattered and fell like dust. Another shadow reached Willie. He didn't resist. He just froze, as if he surrendered. A second later, he vanished, and the killings continued. Laine stood apart. One of the shadows moved toward her, almost touching her skin. She felt the air grow thick and viscous, and then a whisper. "You are needed here, child. You are the vessel. He will come soon, the Father, the great devourer. He created you, and you will become the world for his flame." The shadow stepped back. It didn't touch her. It didn't even try. When it was over, only 6 were left. No one blamed Laine anymore. Now they feared her. Even Wayne looked at her differently. He had seen it too. The shadows bowed before her, and this wasn't salvation. It was a sentence. Late that night, she sat by the window and listened to the abyss. It didn't growl. It didn't scream. It spoke, a low, enveloping voice. "Lenathra, my daughter." Soon, Laine clutched her head. She felt her brain heating from within, like fire growing inside her skull, fire she couldn't extinguish. She knew they weren't protecting her. They were waiting, and she was a vessel, not a hero. But maybe, just maybe, she could still help someone. A plan immediately formed in Laine's mind. The shadows didn't subscribe and like me and I'll tell you more. Chapter 4, Punishment. The fourth night. Hartwood howled. The rift kept yawning deeper beneath Mysticwell Street, and every night from its depths emerged what people now called shadows. Dark, intangible beings driven by a hunger older than death itself. No one walked the streets anymore. The survivors hid in basements, tunnels, sewers, or the few remaining bomb shelters, anywhere they could hold out. They no longer searched for salvation, only delay. Laine's group consisted of just 6 people. The library, half flooded and reeking of rot, had become their temporary refuge. The oak door held by some miracle, and the books were no longer a source of knowledge, but barricades for the windows. Among them were Laine Vane, the twin sisters, Miley and Kira Thomas, a quiet young man with cracked glasses, Missy, gray-haired and sharp. Once the librarian of this very building, Laine sat hugging her knees, feeling something alien pulsing under her skin. It was growing inside her, whispering, but not with words, with sensations, with images, with a sinister warmth like tongues of flame beneath her heart. 11:59 p.m. Time stretched like a string. Outside the city, somewhere out there, others, maybe dozens, maybe hundreds. But here in the library, there were only 6. When the wall clock struck midnight, everything froze, even breath itself. That was when, as always, the shadow pierced through the ceiling, soundless, like a razor whisper. It reached for Miley first. Kira screamed and clutched her hand. But Laine, remembering her promise, was already standing. No hesitation, just movement. "No!" she said sharply. She stepped in front of Miley and embraced her, shielding her like a human wall, ready to take the blow. The shadow twitched. Its form trembled as if boiling with rage. Silent but screaming, it lunged forward and tore Miley from Laine's arms, flinging her aside. She hit a bookshelf and collapsed unconscious. Laine turned and then saw the shadow split into 3 parts. The first dove into Miley's mouth, the second into Thomas, still sitting in the corner, the third into Missy, who didn't even have time to scream. Then they rose, 3 bodies, 1 voice. From their mouths burst a horrific chorus, layered in 3 tones, low, grinding, and otherworldly. For such defiance, Lenatra, for daring to alter the chosen fate, we will take 3 instead of 1. And remember, this is your fault. You doomed them. Do not stand in our way, or worse shall come. Their eyes turned completely black, and in the next second their bodies ignited, not with flame, but with darkness, as if their souls were torn out, leaving behind charred husks. Miley, Thomas, Missy, dead. In an instant. Only 3 remained in the room. Laine on her knees, frozen in shock, Vane clutching his head, unable to believe what he'd seen, and Kira trembling, her face stained with tears and bruises. She walked to Laine and sat beside her. "You tried to save her," she whispered. This isn't your fault." But Laine didn't respond, because inside she already heard, "It's all you. You are the cause. You are the key. You are the gate." And now she believed it. Don't forget to subscribe and like.